What's up, guys? The Snowman here. We've got another tennis video today. It's the one-handed backhand against the two-handed backhand. We're going to go over everything about these two strokes, the different pros and cons between the one-hander and the two-hander, which situations it's more advantageous to use which of these two backhands, and basically which is better overall. So let's dive into the one-handed backhand versus the two-handed backhand. And we'll start off with the two-hander, the much more preferred and popular style on both the men's ATP Tour and the women's WTA Tour. These are some of the best two-handed backhands in the game. You'll find that players often choose their backhand type based on their hand dominance. If the player is somewhat ambidextrous, the two-handed backhand might be a better option, although a lot of it is about personal preference and style too. Again, just in general though, the two-handed backhand is more popular than the one-hander, more commonly taught to young kids around the world pretty much since the 1970s. That's when the two-hander had a huge spike in popularity. It's a little bit easier for kids to learn because you have that extra support from your non-dominant hand to help guide the stroke. On the other hand, the one-hander is unfortunately slowly becoming extinct. These are a few of my favorite one-handed backhands in the modern game. Guys like Federer, Wawrinka, Thiem, and Gasquet make it look so mesmerizing. It's rare on the men's tour, even more of a shock to see a one-hander in the women's game, but it's definitely a bit flashier than the two-handed backhand, and a lot of experts believe the one-hander will be out of business in the next 10 years or so, not as practical to teach to younger kids. The general consensus with the one-handed backhand is that only true tennis geniuses can fully master it. As you can see, I'm certainly no wizard on the court, but it looks a lot better in my head. I think there's a ton of reasons why kids at the junior level should still invest, though, in the one-hander. Let's get to some pros and cons. These are some reasons that make the two-handed backhand superior to the one-handed backhand. First off, and perhaps most importantly, two-handers generally produce more accurate and consistent ground strokes. When you have two hands on the racket, that makes everything a bit more stable. You have more control, especially when it comes to playing defense and on the return of serve. Novak Djokovic, a fantastic example of this, probably the best two-handed backhand that I've ever seen. Whatever position his body's in, he's always able to deliver with supreme accuracy, using his left hand to help guide and follow through. Two-handers will always be the more consistent and safer option. Another positive for the two-handed backhand is that it can deal with high balls better than the one-hander. It doesn't require as much shoulder strength, hence better for younger kids. There's typically a little more range of motion with the two-hander. Going along with that, the two-handed backhand can be hit with an open stance, whereas one-handers usually have to have a closed stance. They require an extra half step to execute a proper backswing, so the setup isn't quite as tricky or time-consuming for the two-hander. It's easier to adapt from other positions on the court into a two-hander compared to the one-hand backhand. And finally, going back to what I was saying before, it's generally easier for two-handed backhands to be developed. You don't have to have such a high tennis IQ or elite motor skills to nail down a solid, reliable two-handed backhand. For a handful of decades now, the two-hander has been much more popular to teach to juniors. It's just a little bit safer in all facets. Switching to the positives of the one-handed backhand then, if the two-hander is the steady Eddie option, the more consistent approach, then the one-hander is all about high risk, high reward. And one of the specific payoffs that demonstrates this theory is that modern one-handed backhands are able to generate significantly more topspin and torque compared to the two-hander. That in turn helps to create some very tricky short angles to help draw their opponents off the court, especially on clay when the ball bounces higher naturally. You can see the topspin results illustrated with this chart. Basically, to sum everything up here, this is a measurement of the most revolutions per minute, or RPMs, the most topspin for each male player's backhand from 2018 to 2020. So how much spin was created on each player's average backhand. And very unsurprisingly, at the top of this chart, you'll find that 7 of the top 8 backhand topspin rates were one-handed backhands. Some of the most massive shots in the game, guys like Gasquet, Cecchinato, Shapovalov, and Wawrinka, all one-handers. The only two-hander in the top 8 was Casper Ruud. So just know that if you're looking for massive topspin, if you want the ball to really spring off the court, the one-handed backhand is the way to go. Also going hand in hand with the extra topspin, one-handers have the ability to generate more power when properly set up. It produces a more penetrating shot that fizzes through the air with more pace. The one-handed backhand also more adept at hitting low balls. So two-handers better with high balls, one-handers better when the target is lower. Kind of going along with that, players with one-handed backhands tend to have better backhand slices. That's because for high balls, one-handers can't really go over those high targets with topspin, so they're naturally forced to slice more, improving that aspect of their game. And also, the one-handed backhand is better for net play since you can move to the net better. The one-handed shot permits greater forward momentum, and it's a very similar stroke in terms of muscle memory to the backhand volley. This is why you see the majority of old-school serve and volley players had one-handed backhands. It's easier to get to the net, and there's more comfort with the backhand volley. So these are some of the major advantages of the one-handed backhand. So just to summarize, there's not really a right or wrong answer as to which is better between the one-handed or two-handed backhand. The one-hander better for power, topspin, net play, and overall variety, whereas the two-hander excels in stability, consistency, defense, and returns. Personally, I'm always going to favor the one-handed backhand because it's just so aesthetically pleasing to watch, so beautiful. It's like waving a magic wand, but the important thing is whatever backhand you're more comfortable with, look, make it happen. Just make sure you're not hitting backhands in the rain or on a wet surface because you will slip and fall and occasionally embarrass yourself if you do that. Just like my buddy here, Kai. Big shout out to Kai for helping me make this video and taking one for the team. And thank you so much for watching my one-handed backhand versus two-handed backhand video today. I hope you learned something or found it informational or entertaining. Please subscribe to the Snowman Sports Media for more tennis content, and I'll be back very soon. Thanks a lot. Cheers.